Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 Business Lecture Series provided by the Central Asian Productivity Research Center and the Business and Professional Institute. My name is Chris Wager, and I would like to introduce the lecturer for today's presentation. Professor John Kalaras has been a professor for more than 40 years. He has authored 11 university-level books. In 1999, John was recognized by UNESCO as the Professor of the Year. From 2005 to 2009, former President George W. Bush appointed John to his Business Advisory Council. John's role was for education and training in the USA. If John's advice and counsel were sought by the UN and President Bush, we surely can't go wrong with paying attention to his words today. I give you John Kalaras.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you for the kind introduction. Can I share now?
Yes.
There we go. I guess we're all set. Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, thank you for attending again today. This is the third and final presentation that we're giving to the University of Azerbaijan. As I stated the last time, the students are first-year students there. So to some of you, if not most of you, this presentation may appear to be a kind basic, almost introductory, but again, I've thrown there enough of my ideas and concepts, which in most cases are almost unheard of, so I'll satisfy your high expectations as well. Let me begin this presentation by saying a heartfelt thanks to my former student and now colleague, Stephen Unikas. And let me tell you what happened. After the last presentation, I received a call from Stephen says, "Professor, are you open to some suggestions?" I said, "Of course." "Well, I can design some of your slides to be more appealing, do a little beautification with your presentation." I said, "Stephen, go for it." Well, to show you what he did, this is what I used to have, and that's what Stephen designed. Isn't it amazing when your former students excel and exceed the professor's level? To me, that's the greatest reward I can possibly receive. Stephen, once again, I'm indebted to you, my friend. Thank you. Having said that, Stephen also said, or actually modified the slide that I had, what Socrates said, which is basically what I'm following, I have been following almost all my life. He said, "I cannot teach you anything. I can only offer you options, make you think, ask some questions, and what you do with it is totally up to you. It's your choice." And basically, folks, I'll do the same thing with you too today. Let me minimize this. Okay. So, oops, there you go. An advisable methodology that I apply always, or at least most of my life, there we have some more people, okay, is the one that says, examine the what, why, who, where, when, and how. So today, mainly, I will give you the what, but I will also refer to some how and why. It won't be as extensive on the what and why, but I'll give you plenty. Mainly, however, it will be the what. Now, the goal for the day is for you to understand productivity, the benefits that it provides, and how to optimize both your business and professional life. In previous workshops that we had, we analyzed and emphasized the importance of the word optimize versus maximization. In addition to that, today we'll also clarify the terms efficiency and effectiveness, because many think that they are interchangeable, but they're not. Actually, they're almost diametrically opposite, and we'll explain that. Now, here's my promise to you. I want to share with you a new perspective on productivity and some unusual methodologies that have been tested and proven successful over the years. Keep in mind that, just like Christopher said, I've authored 11 university-level books, and I've lectured and trained at least 12 different countries and a number of people. That's why I'm saying these techniques have been tested and proven successful. It's not something that I came up with. I've applied it, and I know that they work. Let me start with a question for you. What is productivity? Okay. If you open any and all management books, you're going to see that productivity measures the output of a function or a process over a period of time. For instance, how many units a person produced per hour or per day, per month, whatever the case may be, or how many units a machine produced in the same timetable, or how many units a department produced, or how many clients we serve. So basically, that's what productivity does. It measures, because just like Oscar has said, and that is one of his themes, producing or doing something without measuring is a useless activity. You got to measure, and productivity does exactly that. Well, how do we measure productivity, since we mentioned that measurement is important? In business, we measure productivity by comparing input to output. In previous workshops, we had the opportunity to go over the input-output processes. As a matter of fact, we comparing it by dividing the input over the output, and I'll give you examples on this. Okay. What is input? What is output? Let's explain that first. And again, please realize that this is mainly directed to first-year students, okay? Let's say that this company makes men's clothing, men's suits. The input would be the fabric, the tools, the zipper, the buttons, the thread, all of that will comprise the input. Then the process is where you measure, cut, sew, put together, and the output would be the actual suit. Straightforward enough, I hope. Here's another example. Let's say you're making a cake. Again, the eggs, the butter, the sugar, the flour, the tools that you need, the milk and everything else is the input. Now you put them all into the process by mixing it, and that is your process. And ultimately, the output would be the cake that you make. So we have input, a process in the meantime, and output. And productivity compares the input to output. In other words, how much material do we put in to make that cake? And can anybody make it more efficiently, more effectively? And we'll explain these terms as well. So, excuse me, we have different types of productivity, and we measure productivity of employees who work, both on an individual basis and team basis. We have machine productivity. How many units a machine can give you. We have departmental productivity. We measure the productivity of a department. Materials, we have all the different types of productivity. I'm not going to take your time on this, okay? Now, let's have an example. Let's say that we are comparing the productivity of two people. Employee A produces 10 units per hour, and employee B produces 12 units per hour. Obviously, who is more productive? It's clear, you'll tell me that employee B is more productive because he produced 2 extra units more than employee A. Well, now let's bring into the formula efficiency and effectiveness along with quality. Okay, now what is efficiency and effectiveness? Efficiency refers to the ability to complete predefined tasks according to its specifications. I'll give you examples, very simplified examples for you to follow. These are the terms that management books use, and that's what your management book at the university has. Basically, what it means is doing things right, where effectiveness is doing the right thing. Now, let me explain in terms that you can follow efficiency and effectiveness. You have your professor who has a class that takes 60 minutes to teach. The professor walks in on the first minute, and spends all 60 minutes in the classroom lecturing, questioning, well, whatever he or she is doing. That means that he or she, the professor, was efficient in utilizing time. However, effectiveness has to do with what the students learned. If the lecture went in one ear and out the other, obviously the professor was not very effective. So what do you want to be, efficient or effective? Obviously both are needed, because if the professor only used 20 minutes out of the 60 minutes for his assignment, he's not very efficient. But you also want to be effective as well. So doing the right thing, in other words, teaching the students right, in this case, in this example, is the important thing. And that clarifies, I think, the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Well, now let's go back to, now that we entered efficiency and effectiveness, let's go back to the example that we did a minute ago, where employee A produced 10 units and employee B produced 12. I hope you remember that. It was only 2 minutes ago, right? Now, though, and you all told me that employee B is more productive. Now let's consider a couple of other things, though. Let's consider defects and quality. And let's presume for a moment that employee B has 3 defects when employee A has no defects. So now, who is more effective? Okay, who would you rather have? Employee A, who only produces 10 units and they're all good, or employee B, who produced 12 units, but 3 of them are defects, they need to be reworked. Okay, so I hope you understand, and this clarifies, I think, the meaning of efficiency and effectiveness. This, by the way, is what KPIs, you know what that is, okay? Critical performance indicators mean. And if you only look at the numbers without going deeper to examine what these units actually are, you're misleading. Your KPIs will not be as effective. So now, let's bring in a new element, quality. We brought in efficiency and effectiveness. Now let's bring in quality. The quality of work we do is directly affecting productivity, folks. And of course, I hope you remember, or you understand this, because of employee A and B, that example, okay? Now, in previous presentations, we defined quality. If you remember, I defined quality actually in the second presentation as, I think I have it here as well. You know you have quality, I said, when the customer returns and the product doesn't. I'll repeat, I think this is a very profound statement. You know you have quality when the customer returns and the product doesn't. Actually, here's another definition that I have. You know you have quality when you don't only meet but exceed customer expectations. So these are 2 simplified terms, unlike the ones you see in management books, that solidify what quality actually is. Now, there are factors that influence productivity, and so far we've mentioned efficiency, effectiveness, and quality. Let's investigate these 2 factors. There are, in other words, additional factors that affect productivity. And that is what goes on internally in the business and externally. We call that the internal and external environments. Examples of internal environments may be the leadership style, management support, the team mentality that you have in your business. Are your people working as a team or as individual robots? Obviously, if they're working as a team, productivity will be higher and defects will be lessened. And of course, here I have a whole list. I'm going to allow you time to either take a picture of it, but you will see, by the way, more slides having lots of information like this one today. And oops, strike that. Okay. And basically, what I'm suggesting that you folks do is either take a picture of all this and ask questions in the chat if you don't understand something or if you want me to explain something. And I will also provide you with my email address. Some slides that you're going to see next, or 3-4 slides down the line, I have a lot more information because the content is large. In that case, I've also provided my email address. Email me and I'll send you that information. I'll be delighted to send you everything and anything you want. So basically, these are the factors, the internal factors, meaning factors that the company can control to some extent, okay? However, we also have external factors, as we said, and that is the location of your business. The location may be more favorable than another, the customer expectations, strategic partners that you're working with, availability of resources, population shifts. When the population shifts, for instance, take the state of Florida here for us in America. Most of the retirees have moved there. So obviously, production companies need to, will probably need to modify their production towards the needs of the people who live in Florida versus the ones who are in Washington, for instance, or in the northern states where they probably have different needs. The political, the economic, and the taxation system definitely affects productivity. And again, I can always go back and explain those things either if you ask or if you email me, and I'll be delighted to spend time with you tomorrow, later on today, in the future, whenever you folks want. Here I have a pictorial, folks, of the 8 most important factors of productivity, and they are ethical behavior, effective communication, the leadership style, the level of integrity of a company, the trust that the company has, the level of trust that exists among the employees, and the team approach, along with the participation, and of course, rewarding the people. Remember what we said the last time about rewards? And I gave you a whole list. Things that are rewarded and appreciated get done. People who are rewarded and appreciated get things done. So please have a reward system and reward your people if you want things to be done. As a matter of fact, a couple of you asked me for the list the last time, and I have a list of 54 rewards that you can use, 50 of which require no money or very little, and only 4 are kind of costly. So I can email you that list if you want. So these are the 3 areas that we've been talking about: productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness. However, there are 7 specific areas that the university asked me to address, and those are change, employee improvement, comparative analysis, time, task management, prioritization, team building, and personality awareness. Now, some of you will probably question why some of these 7 items are highlighted in bright blue when the rest of them are in dark, black, dark. Okay, well, let me explain. The ones that are in light blue, 1, 2, 3, portion of 4 and 7 are things that I've put plenty of my wisdom, quote unquote, my knowledge in it, and some of them are kind of unique. So, hey, pay attention. You might learn something, you might see something that you haven't seen before. So, let's move on with change. Okay, we're going to review all these. Brainstorming change is performed by asking your people to get together, present ideas, examine them, analyze them, and implement the ones that are best. Now, here's something that I would like you to, I would suggest that you ask your employees. Obviously, quite a few of you are managers, and at the university, the deans and the professors who are attending, but the rest of you here in the States and other parts of the world where you're managers, business owners, or whatsoever, I want you for a moment to imagine what could happen to your business, excuse me, if you asked your employees to come up with one improvement per month. You have 10 employees, 12 months, 120 improvements. No consultant, nobody, myself included, can implement 120 improvements. And that's only with a company of 10 employees. As a matter of fact, next I have a graph that you can apply. You can design your own, okay? And here it is. First month, one improvement. You can continue. And then as employees are improving, you may increase that to 2 per month or 3 per month and so on. This way, they feel accomplished. They feel that they are contributing. They feel that, but again, you have to appreciate what they are doing and the improvements that they bring, because ultimately they enhance your business. Okay. So now let's move on to the concept of change. Unfortunately enough, we have all experienced the type of change that companies want to implement at some point, and employees are reluctant for a number of reasons. I'm not going to get to it now. They don't feel good about it, and in some instances, they even boycott it. Well, if change is what you want to do, we have identified 4 elements that are crucial to implementing change, and that is the thoughts. One is the thoughts that the people make when management says, folks, we're going to change this and we're going to be doing from now on something different. So people now start having thoughts. After that, they have feelings. Oh God, what's going to happen? Again, another change. After that, we have actions. Some will implement it, some will abide for it, some will reject it, and you have all the different types of reactions. And finally, we have the results of their feelings. More specifically here now, I have some pictorials to solidify these 4 elements. Remember, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Remember those 4, jot them down, because I'll use them in a moment in my approach, because this is what most people follow, what most companies do. That's why it says most people's model. So now, the first thoughts that usually employees have is, oh no, not another change. Oh God, look at this. See what they're doing. My God, another email. They want us to change. Oh God, this person now is almost giving up. And of course, some will even go as far as crying about it. They throw their hands up. Now they start looking at their watch and the boss says, you're late, because they don't care anymore. Productivity drops. And obviously, you'll probably prepare your resume because you know you're not going to be there. You don't want to be there much longer. Now, this is basically what actually happens with most companies. And I underline most companies. Here, however, is what I propose, given these 4 elements. Remember, I ask you to remember thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. Okay, here's what I do. First of all, I don't propose it as change. I propose it as an improvement. Folks, we need to improve. And I begin with the results first. By the way, do you folks know what program is this FM station? WIIFM? In case you don't, it means what's in it for me. It's not a radio program, but that's what people are listening to. You want me to change? You want me to improve? What's in it for me? And you'll see now how this works. So first is the results. If you remember, it was last, okay? And then actions, then feelings, and then the thoughts. So basically, by starting the approach this way and beginning with the results, you ask your employees, What do you want? Do you want more money? Do you want recognition? Do you want a reward? Or just more money? Well, here's what we need to do. These are the areas that we need to improve. And by sharing these areas, now they're in a race. Now they try and you check the points as they go along. Now the feelings is, oh, wow, I did this. Therefore, now I'm entitled to get my Mercedes. I'm entitled to get a higher pay raise. Okay, they feel this way. And of course, the money will flow in. You become part of a team approach and productivity increases. All I did, folks, I still utilized the 4 elements, but I twisted them around, and it's the way you present them to the people. You don't tell them, you need to change this. In essence, that implies that what you're doing is wrong. It's the authoritarian style that I'm trying to avoid and implement the participatory style. I hope you found this interesting. Feel free to take a picture of this, or I'll email it to you if you want me to. Now, the next thing that I suggest, folks, is a comparative analysis. Remember what I mentioned earlier today? What Oscar Estrada always says? Producing without measuring is a useless activity. And here are the topics that I usually would like to measure or examine, or most companies actually do, and my clients have. The products that we produce, the services we provide, the quality, the price, take a look at them, okay? The level of stability, reliability, trust, reputation. And then on the column right next to it, I evaluate that on a scale 1 to 10. How good are our products? Are they a 10, a 9, a 7? How good is our service? Okay, which, by the way, if it's not a 10, it's definitely an area for you to improve. But even if it is a 10, there's always room for improvement. So you go down the list and you run a self-evaluation. Then I look at the industry. How is the industry recording or evaluating similar products in general? How's the service with other companies and so on? So I take the industry averages, and then I look at the top 3 comparators that the company has. I hope you realize that by now you have a clear stethoscope of how well you're doing in relation not only to what you think, not only to the industry, but also to the 3 comparators of yours. But if you remember, the last time we talked about the importance of the customer, and the last column is value to client. If you remember, by the way, in the last presentation, for the ones who were there, this is how we discussed, this is how I hold my meetings. And if you can see where the cursor is right now, there's an empty chair. I hope you remember what this chair was for, and here it is. It's for the customer. Whenever I hold departmental meetings, folks, either in my organization or with my clients, I always have an empty chair, and I tell them, this is the chair where the customer is sitting and watching what we're doing. So the importance of customer input is critical, and I'm trying to emphasize that as much as I can. Well, with this, we finished the 3rd out of the 7 topics. So let's see what the next is. I mentioned in that list that you should have good time management. Every management book addresses time management. I differ to an extent, folks, and you'll see why. I call it task management. So is it time management or task management? In my view, it is task management, and I'll explain to you why. Well, isn't it true that time is defined as, or time management, if you open any book, you'll see that it's defined as the process of planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on activities. Okay. However, isn't it true that time is fixed? We all have 24 hours a day, don't we? Does anybody have more hours in a day? Okay, so time, in my view, folks, is constant. It is fixed. If something is constant or fixed, excuse me, how can you manage it? It's fixed. There it is. That's all you have. That is why I believe that it should not be time management. What you can do within that fixed time frame that you have is the tasks that you perform in it. And that is what you can manage. That's why I call it task management, not time management. It's a slight differentiation, but gives you the importance of managing the right thing, in this case, the task, not the time, because time is fixed. Well, good time management. And that's why I have my email at the bottom. Take the email me, and I will send you that list. No need to go through the list right now. It's lengthy. And unless anybody wants me to address any specific, I'm going to leave it there for a second in case anybody has any questions. Put it in the chat. I'll be delighted to, oops, I will have something in the chat. Wait a minute. I see the slides. Okay. Let's see what Phil says. Showing slides by the audience. Christopher, Phil says that he cannot see the slides. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm talking with him now.
Okay. Is he the only one? Can the rest of you folks see the slides?
Yeah, they're seeing them.
Yes. Okay. So it's something with Phil then, most likely. Okay, I don't see anything else on the chat for the time being. Well, here's a question. Excuse me. How important is prioritization? Well, actually, prioritization is one of the topics that we'll discuss next. So hold on to your question. You'll see the explanation in a moment. Keep distractors away, somebody else asked. Okay, well, you'll be surprised, folks, how many times you are in the middle of doing something and somebody comes up to you and says, Joe, I have a question. At that time, you should learn to say, I'm in the middle of something. Can we discuss this during my break or a little later? Give me half an hour. So if you want to improve productivity and continuous improvement, keep the distractors away. Okay. And again, please take either a picture of it or email me. I'll be delighted to send you that information. Actually, here it is, prioritization. That was one of the questions out of the list. Okay. This is another area, by the way, that Stephen did a great job in presenting this slide. Okay, well, prioritization is an activity that arranges actions, tasks, items, or thoughts in order to, according to subjective importance. The word subjective here is important, is vital. So what you think is important, I may not feel the same way. But if you are prioritizing, if you are setting the goals, you go on and you prioritize it accordingly, okay? In any event, it is subject, the importance of prioritization is subjective, dependent on the person who does the prioritization. Now, why do we need to prioritize? Because that will give you higher productivity, effectiveness, and efficiency. It will reduce costs, it will avoid redundancy, and of course, reduce stress along with avoid procrastination, and people will definitely be motivated. Okay. Again, any questions? Feel free to chat or put it in the chat, and I'll be delighted to address. The person who asked about prioritization before, forget the name, I apologize. I hope I'm addressing your concern. Okay. Now, you're going to see the chart that Stephen designed. If we have a vertical and a horizontal axis, where on the vertical, we measure the performance of a task or something. And on the horizontal, we measure the urgency there are 4 quadrants that we need to examine. Now realize that the higher up, the higher the importance. The farther out, the higher the urgency. So, given that, the first quadrant shows, actually, let me show them like that so you know what I'm talking about. So now let's go back. Excuse me. The first quadrant shows importance and urgency. It's high on importance, high on urgency, which means that has to be done immediately. You better do it right now because it's both important and urgent. The next addresses important. You see, it's high on importance, but not urgent. So you may decide to do it later, okay? When you want, at a later point. Here we have urgent, but not important. Therefore, you can delegate it to someone else to do. And finally, we have not important and not urgent. And I'll give you examples on all of them. Important and urgent. Okay, the first one. A machine broke down and we cannot produce anymore. So, but the units have to be out by 5 o'clock p.m. today, and the customer is waiting for the delivery. So now this is important and urgent. So you have to get to it immediately. Important, but not urgent. Okay, it's important that we complete, since I'm using the manufacturing environment as an example here, excuse me, it's important to complete those units, but since the machine broke down, the customer does not expect them until a week later, so we can adhere to something else and get to it later on today or tomorrow. Urgent, but not important, okay? Something that has to be done right away, but it's not as important, okay? Well, the delivery truck broke down, okay? It's urgent, but can we get a replacement truck? Can we rent? If we don't have another one, can we rent something? So it is urgent, but not that important. And obviously, the last one in red, no urgent, no important, is self-explanatory. Again, feel free to take a picture of this. I think this is a nice chart, and Stephen did an excellent job in color coding this and presenting it as such. Well, speaking of prioritization, again, I have my email up there, okay? So expect a lengthy slide in this case, and here it is. Sorry, here it is. Again, I'm not expecting you to go through, I hope you're not expecting me to go through each and every element at this point. I'm going to leave it there for a moment in case anybody has any questions, but I'll be delighted to send it to you and have a follow-up chat with you later on today, tomorrow, or anytime you want. And I hope you realize that's why I'm showing my email up there. So send me an email and say, John, Professor, or however you want to call me, I've been called worse than that. Send me that slide about the prioritization, or send me all the slides with the information that you had. Okay, I'll be delighted to. Okay. Let me just speak on one of them, emphasize benefits. Folks, stating the benefits to the employees who will prioritize, or the person who says the prioritization is important. Remember that what's in it for me? How can I benefit from this? I'll prioritize because there are benefits both to the company and hopefully to me as well. Actually, that is an area that I emphasize whenever I train people for employment opportunities. And I tell them, most people, when they're asked, what skills do you have? They go on and they say, I know this, and that. And they enlist 15 elements, and the interviewer is lost. What I train them to do is emphasize the benefits, meaning I know this, and it can benefit you this way. I know that, it can benefit you that way. And finally, I know this third thing, and that's how you can benefit. If an employer, if an interviewer sees benefit to the company, you're hired right away. If you enlist 15, 20 different skills that you have, they're going to be lost. That was only an example for item 12 to emphasize benefits. I can explain all of them, and I have really good examples because I've done this over and over and over again with my clients and even in my organization. Okay, so now we're going to move on to item 6, and we only have one more item to go. Okay, the team mentality. Well, I spent a lot of time on this on the previous presentation, so I'm not going to spend a lot today because I have the next element or the next 2 topics that I'd like to spend most of the time on. Well, here is something that I've borrowed from somebody else, and I always give them credit. What the word team actually means: together, everyone achieves more. By the way, that's not mine. I borrowed it. If you remember, last time when we talked about systems, I told you the acronym systems, it was mine, and that meant, if you remember, with the word system, right? With a system, you save yourself significant time, effort, and money. System. Okay, that I've developed, so you know. Okay, but this one I've borrowed. And again, in team, yes, or with teams, everyone achieves more. All right. Again, for the team mentality, whenever you see my email up there, expect a a slide that has plenty of information up there, which again, I'll be delighted to send you. Oops. And either take a picture of it and ask me later on, or hey, I'll email it to you. Let me pick on item 5, listen. Here I have something to share with you. They talk about active listening, participatory listening, listen to your clients, show that you indeed are listening. All of this is great. Here's what I want you to remember, folks. We have 1 mouth and 2 ears. Use them in proportion. I'll repeat. We have 1 mouth and 2 ears. Use them proportionally. I think it's a good element, okay? Having said that, let's try to move on. And again, feel free to ask me anything on these topics. This, folks, is something that I guarantee you haven't seen. It's something that I've been applying for quite some time now. And I call that personality awareness and behavioral detection. Let me tell you where this concept has been used multiple times. Corporations that want to hire a CEO, a president, a vice president, a regional director, meaning somebody at the C-level and above, call me and I perform this quote-unquote investigation to predict possible behavior of the potential hiree. Most importantly, let's say that they want to hire somebody as a president of a company. They call me, I go on and I interview the president, and I ask the person to give me 2 personal references and 2 professional references. And there is a questionnaire that I have prepared for both the president, the candidate, and the 4 people. The questionnaire, by the way, does not refer to if the person is good or whatsoever. It's mainly situational questions. In other words, what do you think that this person will do in this case? What do you think that this person will do in that case? So the 2 personal acquaintances and the 2 professional acquaintances answer those questions along with the candidate himself. Then I take all these answers and I put them on my computer, where I have the system that gives me a reply about the character, about the way this person will act or react most of the time. I hope you got the idea But when you see how this is implemented and how it is applied, I think you will understand better and probably enjoy it. Okay. The concept refers to understanding ways for your own ways, along with others, and how they act and react. Most of the time, this is critical, most of the time they are expected to act and react in a certain way. Once you develop this skill, you will start noticing behaviors of people that you haven't seen before. Actually, even today, when I go through this, you'll start saying, aha, now I remember why, now I know why, now I understand why Joe, Mary, David, whoever acts this way all the time. Okay. So, in addition, the system here, the concept here, you're going to be able to predict somebody's behavior and somebody's response. In other words, you want to appoint somebody who you want to hire somebody who you know how he or she is going to act or react most of the times. I call that personality awareness. And we already addressed in previous sessions that different people see things differently. And I hope you remember these two pictorials that I shared with you the last time. Okay, two people looking at the same object, depending upon how they're looking at it, they have different perceptions. So again, we all have different perceptions of what we hear, what we say, the way we reply, and so on. So let's finalize this for a moment, at least the theory, before I get to the application. This behavioral detection identifies behavioral styles, not only yours, but other people's as well, and it prepares you for the best possible approach. It enables you to relate and interact effectively, and of course, it helps you understand the style of other people and what they're going to do. In other words, you improve efficiency and effectiveness in communication. Okay, now let's see how this works. Let's presume for a moment that this blue area represents all the people you have in your company. 10, 20, 50, 1,000, I don't care how many they are. We take that area and with a vertical axis, we divide it into right and left portions. And then with a horizontal axis, we divide it into upper and lower section. Obviously, you now have 4 quadrants. Okay, bear with me and follow this. I'll be delighted to share this with you, or even come to your company pro bono. I'm not looking for clients. I'm doing very well on my own, pro bono, and present this to you if you want me to. So, people who fall in this upper half, both quadrants, have a tendency to control, want to be in control most of the times. People who fall in the lower half, or these lower 2 quadrants, emote. They become emotional most of the time. People who fall on the left half have a tendency to ask, where people who fall in the right half, both quadrants, have a tendency to tell. However, now we can specifically differentiate, for instance, here on the right half, people who like to control by telling, or people who become emotional by telling or when telling. You'll see in a moment. Anyway, the upper left quadrant, we named it, that represents systematic people. They keep control by asking questions. Example, a person may ask, how did you do this? So now you have to reply. And why did you do it that way? You have to reply. What else could you have done? You have to reply. Did you bring anybody else into this? You have to reply. I hope you realize how this person is keeping control by asking questions. So people who fall in this quadrant, so when excuse me, when the computer gives me somebody's reply as being in this quadrant, I know that this person likes to control by asking. Now let's look at the next quadrant. This person likes to control by telling, and I call that the directive. In other words, this person will say, Joe, this is what you need to do. Go on and do it. But I have a question. Well, you know how I should do it. But I still want to ask, well, Joe, can you do it? Yes or no? If not, I'll get somebody else. Do you realize the mentality that this person has? Controls by telling others. Does not like to talk a lot. It's directive to the point. This is the assignment, go on, do it. Next, we have the talkative. Now, what are the characteristics of this individual? Likes to tell and becomes emotional. Likes to talk, blah, 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 blah. Us professors sometimes fall for this. We'll go on and we'll lecture on a topic, and then we say, well, let me tell you what I mean. And we go on for another 10, 15 minutes explaining the same thing. And now let me give you an example of what I mean. And the students go, duh, okay, fine, we got it. But again, this person does not understand that by repeating and stating something over and over and over is not as productive. And finally, or here, let me give you another example. Let's say that you want to sell some type of a policy, health policy, life policy. And the client at some point, the prospective client at some point says, can I pay this monthly or quarterly? That's an indication I want to buy. But the salesperson, the talkative salesperson says, yeah, we'll talk about this in a moment, but let me show you some more examples, some more benefits of this policy. And the person says, okay, damn it. And now goes on, and so as I mentioned, can I pay this monthly? Yeah, but let me just reiterate this last thing that I want you to know. Stop at some point, okay? And finally, we have this person here who asks to obtain permission and becomes emotional. The usual reaction or statement by this person is, if I ask my boss, what do you think that he's going to think? Do you think that he's going to think that I'm not good? Am I in trouble? Oh, I don't want to go back and ask, can you go back to my boss and ask for me? They ask to get permission, and they become so emotional, which makes them almost ineffective. Now, I hope you realize that the way that these people act and behave most of the times, and that's critical, okay? Please realize that all of us have elements of all four of them, but most of the times we act or we are expected to act and react in one of those four categories, okay? I'll repeat that, it's very profound. All of us have elements of all four, but most of the times we act or react, or we're expected to act or react in a certain way. Well, wouldn't that be very effective, very beneficial to a company if they know how a person is going to act or react? Think about it for a moment. As a matter of fact, here I have the pictorials of how these people usually look like, okay? And on the next slide, I will introduce you to the most important element of this concept. I'm only using one out of the four types, and I'm using the systematic. And the element, the point here is, if you are identified as a systematic, how do you work with the other styles? So now, remember, the systematic controls by asking. Remember, why did you do this? How did you do it? Who else was there? What else could you have done? Why this? Why that? They keep on asking questions. They love to ask questions. Keep that in mind. And that's how they control the situation. However, now, how would the directive communicate with, how would the systematic communicate with the directive? The systematic likes to ask questions, but the directive will say, I told you. What else you want to know? Don't you have enough? So now the communication is not very effective. And of course, we have ways of smoothing this, and that is what this system is all about. It's not only to identify what your style is, but how to enhance and how to become more effective. So now that we train both the directive and the systematic on how to communicate effectively, the directive most likely will learn not to ask as many questions. The systematic will learn not to ask as many questions, and the directive will learn that he should be a little more cooperative and answer more than one or two questions. And then we'll go to, remember, you're identified as systematic, right? So now how do you work with the talkative? Remember, the talkative likes to talk. Now think about it for a moment. If the talkative likes to talk and the systematic likes to ask questions, most likely, folks, they're going to go throughout, they're going to spend the whole day talking about it and never get anything done. So here again, we train people on how to ask less questions and how to answer more precisely to the point by not taking hours and hours to explain, excuse me, what you want to present, okay? So again, the systematic, communicating with the talkative. If we just let them be the way they are, they'll never get anything done. They'll keep on talking, and they will still be talking next day when you go there. Okay. Next, we have the systematic, how to communicate with the emotional. Remember, the systematic likes to ask questions. And now the emotional style or type will say, why is he asking all these questions? Am I in trouble? Am I going to be fired? Or did I do anything wrong? Why is he asking all this? Again, we train people on how to accept questions or how to ask questions. And finally, chances are that the systematic may come across another systematic. So now you butt heads, okay? You have somebody who likes to ask questions, and the other person says, well, let me ask you a question. And they keep on going back and forth. And of course, there is a whole training system that I have here where you can smoothen the behaviors of all of them and make the process a lot more effective and efficient. I hope you liked what you saw. I'll be delighted to share this in more detail with any and all of you. The final element, folks, that I have is what I call the metaphor of the tree. It is something that I've developed recently, and I've presented to maybe a little over 100 companies, and they all loved it. Not as many companies as the rest of my concepts were over because again, the rest of my concepts I've been applying for 35, 40 years, but this is fairly new. Okay, so it is a concept that I've developed and will show you the resemblance between the life of a tree and the life of a human. What a tree goes through and what a human goes through and how do they relate. Folks, when we, let me see what time. Okay, it's 9 o'clock already, so we have a few more minutes. We're finishing with this area. When we plant a seed, we expect it to grow and become either a big flower or a tree. Well, basically, isn't the same with humans, but again, it's not the physical development or reaction that I'll refer to. What I'm going to discuss with you today is what these two elements, the trees and the humans, go through to succeed in life. When we see a tree with beautiful flowers, we admire the tree and we say, oh, wow, how beautiful. Or with fruit, and we say how beautiful that is, not realizing what the tree has gone through, what the roots have gone through in order to get all that water and minerals that the flowers and the fruits need. Well, basically, humans go through the same painful processes in order to become the executives that we see today, the successful Stephen Unicas, Oscar Estradas, Philip and Christopher and others as well. Well, when we see a tree, what we don't realize is that the roots take just as much space as the tree above the soil does, possibly even more, as it's shown in this pictorial. Another thing that we don't realize, folks, is that a tree grows in two different ways: downward first and upward next. Okay, keep that in mind. The roots of a tree may have to be faced with any and all adversities, as in this case. The roots have to go through the adversity of a rock, around the rock, to get down to the soil, to find the minerals, to find the water and everything else. Look at this one, again, all the different types of adversities. Well, possibly even dry soil and so on, which is not favorable for the growth of the tree. Well, folks, isn't it true that humans, many times, in order to accomplish that executive look that you saw a minute ago between the lady and the man that I had there before, isn't it true that they too go through a lot of adversities, mud, and everything else? But what we see is the successful person, the individual. I don't want to mention names again, but many of them are in this presentation today. And we say, oh, wow, what a successful person. What a great CEO or general manager or regional director, now realizing what they have gone through. And many times, folks, individuals try to take a tree down, which resembles the things that people do to us in order to harm us. And if they cannot take us down totally, at least they try to chop up some branches. And some of them, by the way, you'll do it the stupid way that you're going to see next, okay, which is going to harm themselves mainly. Well, individuals do the same thing to us as well. And some, they try to try to pull the carpet from underneath. So when we see these successes, when we see these people who really are successful, please realize that they've gone through a lot. However, and again, before I move on to the final point, trees are also faced with parasites. And people are faced with parasites too. People who borrow money from you and you never see them again. People who take advantage of what you have and you never see them again, and so on, and live off your wealth or wisdom and intellectual properties as well. Well, as a final topic on this, folks, on the metaphor of the tree, is when we see a tree, just like the one that you see up here, you see it has nice leaves, flowers, fruit, but we said that a tree has roots. And basically now, metaphorically, those roots, folks, refer to, when it has roots, has the main branch, the branches, and the top. Now, for the roots, in my view, the roots, folks, for the tree, or the roots of a tree, is what feeds the tree to bring these nice flowers and fruit. Well, metaphorically, for a person, the roots represent your principles, your values, your beliefs, your morals, your family bringing up. This is what you're basing your overall behavior and performance as a professional, as a human being. Then we go to the main part right here of the tree, excuse me, which mainly represents your main accomplishments. You got your degree, you got your master's, you got a great position, a great job, a great performance, a nice home. And these are the things that you are proud of and you're basing your whole existence on. Above the main branch, we have now the smaller branches. And those now represent your personal and professional life, the awards that you receive, the certificates that you have, the main things that you have done in life that you are also proud of, along with your contributions to community, helping other people, and so on. And now that we explained the resemblance between the tree and a human, let's get to the leaves, the flowers, and the fruit. The leaves give you the oxygen. The little things that you do in life give you the power to move on a daily basis. The flowers provide the aroma. In other words, the pleasure that I did an act of kindness. I helped somebody. I helped somebody improve. And the fruits, obviously, are the fruits of your labor, your personal successes, the rewards that you enjoy. However, now we all know that some fruit may rot. Now, what does a tree do with the rotting fruit? It drops them to the ground, and they become soil. They become food for the tree to grow even more and bigger next time. Those, my friends, represent the people the bad apples in a bushel. People who try to take advantage of you, drop them, just like the tree did right here. You see that? Drop them, but let their behavior in the instance become a lesson for you to not deal with people like that before. So from the roots to the main branch, to the branches, to the flowers and everything else, I think the resemblance there is critical. Well, with this, we came to the end of the presentation. However, after the first presentation, actually after the second, I received several inquiries from people who attended the first presentation, who I closed in a certain way, and they wanted me to repeat the same closing, and I will do that. It will only take another minute. So back then, in the first presentation, I said, and again, this is a repetition of what I did in the first presentation, but many people wanted me to repeat it, okay? So back then I said, I wish I could place an ad on every newspaper or on the internet where under lost and found, it would say, yesterday, I lost a 24-hour, 24-karat golden day, where every hour was decorated with 60 diamond minutes, and every minute was decorated with 60 ruby seconds. But don't look for that day. That day was yesterday. That's gone. But my question to all of you is, what did you do yesterday to pave the way for a better today and a better future for yourself, the ones around you, and the community at large? And that is the main element that I want to present here. So again, I said, since today is the first day for the rest of your life, think about it. And that's not me. Somebody else said it. Actually, Nightingale did. Okay? Today is the first day for the rest of your life. Make the commitment to take life seriously, because life is not a game. Life is God's gift, graciously accepted. It is a decathlon. Ethically compete in it. It is a challenge. Take it, and proudly perform it. But most importantly, my friends, life is a marathon with an unknown finished line. It is a championship game where there are no timeouts, no substitutions, no replacements, and the clock never stops. Life is not a race to come in first, but one of quality, ethics, dignity, trust, and respect to do your best. Thank you. And again, here's my email. Email me with everything and anything. I'll be delighted to chat with you and communicate with you all you want. Now let me stop sharing and see if anybody else has anything. The floor is open. Christopher, please unmute people in case anybody has any questions or comments.
Well, they have to unmute themselves.
Oh, folks, please unmute yourself. There goes. Okay. Unmute yourselves if you want to ask any questions or make any comments or whatsoever. Stephen, you're among the few people who stayed through all the way through all three presentations. Thank you.
No problem. My pleasure as always, John. It's always great to to hear your lectures and actually share, your information with my colleagues. I actually invited a few of my colleagues here today.
Yes, I noticed that.
And so they were able to join as well. So I was really happy to have that.
By the way, I don't know if you caught that in the very beginning. I did mention the big improvement that you did with my slides. And I also mentioned how proud the professor is to see his former students, now colleagues, excel the level of the professor and teach their professor something. And thank you for that. That was great.
My pleasure as always.
Thank you. Hey, Phil, I see you're on.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it exactly.
Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Many companies or many managers tell their employees that, yes, we welcome your input, we welcome your suggestions, your ideas, and so forth. And it's totally inauthentic. They really don't. They basically use it, I don't want to say it's an opportunity to put the employees down, but they really, they say they want input, and then in reality, they don't.
Hmm.
And I've worked, actually, after working with two companies like that, I started my own business, so I wouldn't have to deal with that any longer. And I was just wondering if there's a way to detect when these managers are being truly authentic, when they truly do mean what they say, or whether it's all for show. It's all.
Yes, excellent question. Let me, before I directly answer this, let me mention something that is a kind unique, and I don't think that you have seen in business anywhere. Folks, in my organization and the companies that I work as a consultant for, I train these managers to hold 2 meetings as they usually do, one a week, one every however often they do. And the 3rd meeting is held by the employees. So now the managers become the attendees and the employees run the meeting. I hope you realize that for a company to implement something like this, which is very unorthodox, very unique and uncommon, excuse me, they have to have developed a mentality of fairness, integrity, equity, trust, and everything else. So, Phil, to move overnight from the mentality that you described to what I did is practically impossible. It takes time to cultivate and develop these managers, cultivate the company mentality and culture that employees are vitally important. As a matter of fact, in a previous presentation, I explained or I presented my approach to a CEO. CEO, we said, stands to, for most people, to Chief Executive Officer. In my view, however, that stands for customers, employees, owners. And I said at the time, I may be the owner of the business, but in terms of that importance, I'm the last bottom down there. So on top is the customers, but right below are the employees, CEO, customers, employees, owner. So if a company develops that mentality, what you said will no longer exist, but it takes time to cultivate that belief, that environment, that behavior by management. Okay?
Yeah.
And of course, it's a whole approach that we follow in order to build the trust in a business, to build, to trust your employees, to trust that the employees know what they do and so on. Am I answering your question or?
Yes, no, that's very good. But also in many cultures, there's a directive mentality where the boss says what to do and the employees implement the boss's the boss's wishes, and there is no input from the bottom, or there's not much interest in input from the bottom.
That's a very ill-managed environment.
Yes,
and definitely suggest that they do something about it because they're going to lose good employees. Conscientious, highly productive employees will not tolerate an environment or a behavior like that, and they'll probably go someplace else. So the company loses any way you cut it, any way you look at it.
And it goes back, John, to your slide where you talk about the upper right hand quadrant with the control tell. If they're not systematic managerial approaches where they ask the questions, if they just simply go to the control tell, they're going to lose a lot of the input that can come from their extended team.
Very true. Stephen, you have your thing up. You want to say something? Steve, I saw you have your slide. I mean, your thing. Okay.
No, that was me. I just said that. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. No, that was it.
Anybody else? Any comments before I'll let you go for the day, folks. I see a couple of folks here in the chat saying, send me the information. Okay, fine, I will. I see the slides now. Okay. Folks, I can't thank you enough unless anybody has any more questions. Once again, I'm grateful that you attended this presentation today. Thank you. Thank you, George. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, John. Thank you, Greg. Dave. Oh, God, so many people. I can't go through all of them. All right, folks, have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, live stream is off.
Yep. Okay, leave the meeting. Might as well.
And I'll end the stream on, there we go. Okay, we're off.
Okay, I'm looking at the chat here. Okay, great. All right.